Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Yesterday, a question was asked, how to develop Vairagya? In fact, it is not possible for us to develop Vairagya. Vairagya should come to us by our feeling sort of dissatisfaction with whatever the world can give us. The world can give us the most sensory pleasures, and by experience we learn that the sensory pleasures are quite momentary and will lead us only more sorrow than happiness. After getting such experiences for some time, we come to the conclusion that depending upon the worldly pleasures for our happiness is like running after a mirage. You run after the happiness, you find that it is eluding you. It is still far, far away from you. So you run and run, still you find it far, far away. Then the understanding comes that running after the worldly pleasures is futile. And you really search for something that will give you permanent happiness. Then you start rejecting those that you had been experiencing before, all the sensory pleasures, all the enjoyments, or all the objects of enjoyment that you thought would give you happiness. You get a sort of dislike for those things and try to find something that can give you permanent happiness. It is at this time you learn either from books or from master that real happiness can come only from God, and therefore we must commune with God. Or in other words, they will say that real happiness is within you, and that is your own self, your own Swarupa. So meditate on that. Hearing this from the wise men, we try to do more and more meditation so that we may commune with our real being existence. Or if it is outside us, you commune with God in any particular form, imagining that He is outside us. And for that purpose, to get more and more concentration on the self or the image you are meditating upon outside you. You wish to, or you have to give up so many things which you have been clinging on to so far. So you give up many things which attracted you before, just for the sake of giving all your attention and devotion to the object you are now after, that is, the communion with the divine within you, or meditating on any image or form of God outside you. This giving up is not difficult. It will depend upon how deep your devotion is to the ideal or to the divine within you or to the image outside you. The more your mind is attracted towards the higher life, the less will be your attraction to the sensory objects of the world. That is what is called Vairagya. So, to develop Vairagya, if you can use the same word, what you have to do is to increase your devotion to God, devotion to the truth within you, or to intensify your aspiration to reach your goal. If this is given, naturally your mind will dwell less and less on the sensory objects, and the desire for enjoyment of the sensory objects will become less and less. It is just like in the beginning, say your connection with God is like that of a small thin string, very thin string, and your connection with the world is like with a thick rope. So the moment the downward pull is there with the thick rope, the string snaps and we lose communion with God. By our devotional practices, we increase the strength of our contact with the divine. That is, the string is made thicker and thicker, and ultimately like a thick rope, and the strength of our contact with the world is made thinner and thinner, like a thin string. When the communion with God increases, our communion with the world snaps. We will get fully immersed or merged in divine consciousness. That is the only way to develop Vairagya. It is not forcibly done or consciously done. It comes automatically by our communing with God more and more intensely. The example is given of, say, our desire to go to the railway station or to the airport to catch the train or plane at a particular time. We have started a little late and we go very, very fast to reach the station or the airport. Our aim is only to reach the station or airport. On the way, you may see so many things that might have attracted you in the ordinary course. But as your mind is fixed on a particular time to reach the station or airport, you will be unmindful of so many things that you see on the roadside. So you pay no attention at all to those things. Like that, if our desire to reach the divine is very, very strong and our aspiration is intense, nothing in the world will attract us. Our beloved Papa used to tell a story to show How, if we have the ideal before us always, we will not be attracted by anything on the way. It seems there was a king who had a few ministers to look after the affairs of the country. He had also a very faithful servant. The ministers were only time servers and were not very faithful to the king or the country. The king knew that. The servant, however, was serving the king very faithfully, very lovingly and honestly. The king in turn loved him very much and gave him all support to learn something and equip himself for a higher position. Gradually, because of the support of the king and also by his own honesty and intelligence, he could get more and more knowledge, and ultimately he was promoted to higher ranks. And ultimately one day he was made the chief minister. This naturally caused envy among the other ministers. They went and reported to the king that it was not fair on his part to have made his servant the chief minister, whom they had to obey now. The king, without giving a direct reply, told them, I want to meet all of you in a particular garden at 5 o'clock sharp this evening. 5 o'clock sharp. You should not be late. They all agreed. He called the new chief minister to arrange for many attractive games, attractive things to draw the attention of passers-by. That anybody walking that way or driving that way would have to stop their vehicle and look at those things, spend their time. These ministers who started from their house as considering that they would be able to reach the garden at 5 o'clock, were attracted by the various scenes on the way. Some places there were games going on, some places dances going on, some places games going on. They were attracted by all these things and forgetting that they had to report to the king at 5 o'clock. They reached the garden only half an hour or 45 minutes late. The only one who reported in time was the new chief minister, who was the king's servant before. Then they all assembled together. The king asked them, what time you were asked to report here? They all said 5 o'clock. Now what is the time? We are half an hour late or 45 minutes late. What is the reason? why were you late? And they confessed that they were attracted by the many things that were on the roadside, and they forgot the goal. Suddenly when they remembered, they came fast and reported to the king. Then the king told them, this is the very reason I appointed so-and-so as my chief minister. He alone came here at 5 o'clock as I wanted all of you to do. Like this, we are to reach God as fast as possible, but we see so many things attracting our attention and we succumb to those attractions and we forget the idea. We sometimes even feel, does not matter, we go a little late. That way we linger on and our progress is hampered by such attractions. So there is no Vairagya there. If one has Vairagya, he will never look at those things on the roadside. He will feel that my goal is to reach the garden at 5 o'clock. I must reach there. Nothing else should matter. That should be the Vairagya.
Swamiji, sometimes if you pray a lot and all, then the people of the world laugh and all. If you do too much Ram, then the Samaj, the society, the people around make fun of you.
Are you to satisfy the worldly people or to do something that pleases God so that you may progress on the path? If you are to satisfy the worldly opinions, you will never progress on the path. It will be just like the story of the donkey and the father and son who were the owners of the donkey. Have you heard the story?
Yes.
So we should not depend upon too much on worldly opinions. We must have our own decision.
Can you tell us that story?
A father and son possessed both sat on the donkey and made it walk. Passers by on the way remarked that how cruel for both the father and son to sit on the donkey. Then, when they heard it many times, they said, let us, one of us get down, other may walk. The son alone sat, and the father walked along with the donkey. After some time, the report from the passers-by was that how cruel of the son to make the father walk. The son could not bear this. He got down and asked the father to sit on the donkey. Then the report was how cruel of the father to make the son walk. Then both got down and walked. And how silly of both father and son to walk and make donkey walk alone. Then they decided to carry the donkey. They tied both the legs and lifted the donkey. In that struggle, the donkey fell down, and it was a bridge that they were walking on. The donkey fell in the river and got drowned. This is what happens if we care too much to public opinions. we must give some respect to public opinions, no doubt, but we must not be carried away by such opinions. Public opinions are very good to correct ourselves from our going on the wrong path. People will correct, and if we give some importance to their opinion, we will be able to correct ourselves. That is all right to some extent.
Swamiji, because the path on which we all are walking, it's a serious sadhana, and it's high time, I think, that we become serious. In that case, if we roam around with mala and we become a bit serious in our sadhana, naturally the world comes to know, so people will pass their opinions. Now the stage has come when we should become a bit serious in our sadhana.
Right.
So what natural, the people will see us doing Rana, so we can't hide it. So we can't please everyone. We can't please the world. Because everyone will be having different opinions.
It's all right. Let them have different opinions, but at the same time, you must be less ostentatious. You need not show that you are very pious, you are very devoted, and all that. You can be less ostentatious in your practices. You need not show to others that you are this or that. It is a custom among the devotees to show that they are very, very religious. They, especially in villages, they apply this vibhuti to show that they are very, very religious. They will put on rudraksha big rudraksha. All these are ostentations. These can be avoided. These do not help us in any way. The less we show ourselves off, the better for us.
Swamiji, is it true that a person who is undergoing a lot of miseries and suffering is dearer to God than the one who is being blessed with all the luxury and material pleasure?
Sufferings and miseries enable him to work out his prarabdha. And that way we can say he is nearer to God, because when we have worked out all our prarabdha, we will reach God. There is nothing else to work out. You can say one is nearer to God if he is thinking of God always, even in the midst of sufferings and miseries. Otherwise we cannot say that. Those who are nearer to God may appear to be suffering, and they themselves do not care about those conditions. But for the onlookers may feel that, oh, what terrible suffering he has, and all that. This just in case of our beloved Papa himself. See the condition. You can imagine when he was traveling during the period mentioned in Quest of God. He appeared to be a beggar, a torn cloth, no other possessions. And He was not sure where he would get his next meal, and he didn't know where to take rest at night. That condition was worse than that of a beggar. But did he feel that he was a beggar? He felt that he was the King of Kings. He was in high ecstasy, in the constant remembrance of Ram. He was enjoying that supreme bliss. See the difference? If those who are suffering feel that they are doing it in the name of God and feel that it is blissful, they are nearer God. Many people suffer and weep and wail over the sufferings. We cannot say that they are nearer God.
But what about people who have all the luxuries? What about people who have all the luxuries and still remember God?
Yes, they are good. They can. Those who are remembering God are nearer God. We can be sure, whatever may be their external conditions. It is good that with all the luxurious environments, they are able to remember God. It is a credit to them. Mostly people forget God when they are immersed in luxurious things. Luxury, too much riches make people forget God. So those who remember God, in spite of their luxurious life, are really blessed. People, when they are suffering, ask for God's mercy on them, God's blessings on them, so that they may get over their sufferings. But when they are all right, they forget God also. There are different types. You cannot make a general rule of these devotions. There are many different types of devotees. But blessed are those who are able to remember God in the midst of their luxurious life. Even Gautam Buddha was a prince and had no reason to see suffering. He was leading a luxurious life. But to get real Vairagya, he had to see suffering. Though we can say it was God's will that took him out for a ride, and he saw the hard facts of life. He saw an old man walking about, a sick man there, and such a dark side of life prompted him, or rather made him understand life is all not so rosy as he was imagining till then. That gave him Vairagya. That made him renounce everything and try for salvation.
Swamiji, there is God's hand in every action. In every event, there is God's finger. Means every event which occurs, there is wish of God.
Yes. By God's will alone, everything happens. As we were talking about Saint Tukaram yesterday, he was leading a very, a life of poverty, you can say. Nothing in the house for the children to eat, no proper clothes to wear. Still, when he was offered all these amenities and riches, he refused to accept, thinking that prosperity will take his mind away from God. So he rejected the offerings made by the King Shivaji.
But Swamiji, some necessities are there, no? Clothing, some necessities are there. That Papa was providing.
That is depending upon your attitude. One is satisfied with one meal a day, whereas another is satisfied only with a heavy breakfast, a heavy lunch, and something else to eat in the afternoon, and something better at night. What standard can you fix? In those days when Papa was doing Namajapa and Sadhana, he was living upon 4 or 5